So yeah, wow, what a crazy 4 years, and really the last year sounds very intense as well.
In some ways, like the last year has been intense, but it's been like this fall has been a settling.
You've had like more space, I bet.
Responsive happened, right? We finished Responsive in September, and it was the biggest event we'd ever put on. But I had a full-time team around me, you know, of 2 people full-time at that point.
Yeah.
And a group that I had run the conference with for, you know, 4 consecutive years.
Yeah.
And so there was just clearly, as you'll get to know me, I do things not by half measures. I spent a month traveling in Ghana with my mother, who is like the person in the world that I like butt heads with the most.
Yeah.
So that was immediately after Responsive. So in the month of October, we went to Ghana, which I can talk about.
Wow.
There's been a lot, but it has been I'm coming up on a year of living by myself in a little cottage in Marin. I'd lived in the city in Potrero for 10 years before that.
Yeah.
And so there's just been all of these pieces that it's like clearer. I'm going to be building Zander Media for the next 50 years, for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because what we're creating is an engine to storytell for purpose-driven organizations, both my own, Responsive or Cafe or whatever, and for others that people tech, you know, other things that we believe in, other movements, whether those are companies or other things that we're a fan of.
How amazing that it's like what I'm hearing is like you've gotten this clarity over this process too, right? Like the whole, like what am I doing? I'm about to open a second cafe. I'm gonna be a restaurateur.
Right.
Right? Like you get sucked into that world, right?
Oh
like,
yeah.
What else would you have had time for at that point?
Exactly.
Right? Like, and that you were able to go, well wait, no. And in fact, no, let's jettison the first one as well, right? Let me clear this space.
Right.
Like, and there must have been some moment of kind of clarity, right? Like,
I think that's been a 10-year practice. Applying it in business has been more recent.
Yeah.
And especially in my own businesses and like, what do I want? But I've worked in something like 25 or 30 different industries in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So like circus performance, management consulting, restaurants, event production, right? Like, but it comes, right? I mean, as you said, it comes from the Simon Sinek why, right? Like the who am I and what do I want to do here?
Yeah.
Danny Mayer, right, of Union Square Cafe and Hospitality Group, like he should be a restaurateur, right?
Right.
That was, but even there, like I gave his book, Setting the Table, which is just a phenomenal book, to all of my employees at the cafe. Most of them didn't want to read it. Right? Of course, right? Like, of course.
Right.
Yeah, but it's self-knowing. And it's like whatever your path is there. My path to self-knowing wasn't business.
Right.
It happens to be a playground that I absolutely love.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting as I've gotten older, like I've just, the whole kind of concept of self-actualization, right? Like something that wasn't even on my radar, 10 years ago, much less that I was, anywhere near it, right? But it's just, to kind of, I don't know, as you grow and you evolve, right? Just to realize that, hey, there's all this noise. Most of the world is just a bunch of noise, right? And it's like, and to realize that, hey, some of the stuff I've been doing is just noise, or I've been doing it because of the noise, right?
Right.
I haven't been doing it because of this, right?
Yeah.
And figuring out what that is, or even just figuring out just the fact that there is this noise and that you don't have to listen to it all, right?
Yeah.
Is super powerful.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Tell me about, I mean, obviously we conducted an interview, or I think Aaron interviewed at HR Transform last year.
Yeah.
And so I know some of that story, but like, what's the specific question is like, what are you most excited to spend your time on today?
Most excited today, I love building stuff, right? Cool. So Snapdocs, I came in a couple of years ago, there was nothing. I was the first talent person, people person. We still don't have a people team, we're 110. We don't have an HR person, I'll talk about that in a minute. But, and so just getting to come in and build the engine, right? That's going to grow this company. We were 35, I think, when I joined, and we're 110 now. And my team, I built the team, and we've done all those hires. We put some process in place, et cetera, right? And now hiring our first HR person and thinking about HR and people, and something I've never really done.
Yeah.
I had my own business for 10 years, and so I was HR in that business.
Cool. But I was wondering, right? I know
that was kind of
but I didn't know that was your business.
Yeah. But that was just such a different thing, right?
Sure.
That was at its biggest, it was a 20-person recruiting company, right? Everybody was a recruiter, and so it was like these extreme extroverts, and HR was basically telling people not to open a beer before noon on a Friday.
Sure, right.
Like,
Compliance.
Yeah. And so now thinking about, 110 people, and we're going to be 200 next year, and we're going to be, on and on and on. What do we need to think about to put in the foundations, right? Like, I don't think I'm going to be the person to own HR for all time and do everything, but I'm going to be the one that gets to kind of put the seeds in place.
Cool.
And kind of mentor those people within the organization. And so I get to learn a lot about HR and people right now, which is really cool.
Cool.
I love to learn. That's kind of that building and coaching. I really just love. I love coaching. Like,
cool.
I love coaching people, and I love like within my own team, but even as I've kind of gotten out of the little bit of tunnel vision on just talent and bringing people in.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, so start to think about that first people person, and what should they be thinking about, and what programs are we kind of lacking, and then thinking about, okay, well, how's that affecting us, and then looking at different teams and going, oh, well, that's interesting. I think maybe I can see some opportunity to coach that leader or that manager, with their people problems or their people issues, right?
Yeah.
So I love that, right? That idea of just being a coach, and I at first I was really nervous about, I'm going to have to hire the HR person. I'm going to have to manage the HR person. What the hell do I know about that, right? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, what I know about it is I know how to manage people. I know how to coach people. I know how to give people kind of what they need, right, to be successful.
Yep.
And it's not, it's not about, even with my recruiters, it's not, I don't sit there and tell them, okay, well, then say this and then do this, and right.
Totally.
It's giving them the tools and then giving them that playing field, right? And so I'm really excited about doing that for a whole different function in a sense, right? HR, which I don't really know that much about, to be honest, right? But to be able to first of all learn as I'm kind of bringing that person in, but also just to do what I'm good at, which is support them and coach them, right? And let them do what they're good at, which is HR. Right?
Yeah.
So that's exciting to me.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's I'm just thinking about people tech partners, and I'm curious to hear your experience with the entity that is people tech. But like, there's the commonality as we've been sitting down and as I've gotten to know the network over the last year and a half, which I got to know because we kept having people tech advisors on stage, right? Like heads of people from whatever company. And then eventually, I think it was Marie at Figma, was like, oh, you need to know Robbie Aaron DeCara, right? But the consistent characteristic, right? Or maybe characteristics, a desire to learn.
Yeah.
And just a loving openness to support the growth of their organization, kind of no matter how or what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right. And when you describe that, I'm like, you are clearly a ravenous learner. Yeah. And there's just a deep compassion that I hear in your voice and in how you just talk about your people to support their growth as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and talking about people tech, right? That has been just an amazing resource. Like, you're absolutely right. There's this kind of pervasive kind of hunger to learn in that group, and I mean, you see, every single day I've got, and I can turn it on or off, right? I pay attention to it or I don't on some days, right?
Yeah.
But I've got this steady stream of stuff in my inbox from people tech, right? And somebody asking a question and 8 people jumping in and, hey, did you think about this? And hey, look at this link. And some people are just prolific, right? That there's a couple folks who they're just going to respond to everything with tons of research and links and all this stuff. And then there's some people that are like, going to go, yeah, me too. Yeah. I need to know that, right? And kind of jump on the bandwagon. And and it's just amazing. And that's another thing, right? Just going back to thinking about this task of, okay, now I have to lead the people org. I have to get that in place. Get that in a good place for when we're ready to get a VP, and then I can hand it off to them, right? And I think, oh gosh, it's scary. I don't know about it, etc. And then I just, and then I see an email from People Tech come in, and I go, oh, I'm not worried.
Someone who I know has figured this out before, and I can learn alongside them.
Right. Like, and so, and then as part of this, I pinged a few people, right? I went and had a coffee with Kara, right? I went and had a coffee with a couple of other peers of mine, or not really peers because they're so much more senior in the people world, right? But that, they were like, sure, let's talk, right? I'll tell you all about it,
cool.
And that openness, it's just amazing.
Cool.
So it's just such an incredible resource.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing group.
One of the things, so we've done, as you know, I think all of the video for People Tech in the last year.
Yeah.
And we're stepping more into producing events for People Tech partners as well. So one of the questions I have for you that I'd love your guidance on is, to better support the advisors, like what could, say Robbie and Aaron and Kara and Zander Media produce that would be like the right amount of time, the right context where you're getting to spend time with your peers or on stage or whatever, but to actually support you coming from People Tech partners? Yeah,
it's a great question. I don't know, a few different things come to mind probably. I mean, one is...
I'm going to take notes.
So one thing is, I will say, any of those, any of the events, where I'm able to get together with my peers, as long as there's a good networking component to it, it almost doesn't matter what's on stage because I'm going to get a ton of value out of it.
Yep.
Like even just going along to, something that's really simple. It's mostly just drinks, right? But there's going to be a bunch of heads of talent, a bunch of heads of people there.
Yep.
That is always amazing. Like I walk out of there feeling, just energized and recharged, and I've got ideas. Like I have my phone out the whole time because I'm taking notes. But seriously, I'm talking to people. I'm like, okay, wait, what is that again?
Yeah.
And so that's really amazing. And even if it's, even if I'm struggling, I'm feeling terrible, right? I go to those and I feel better because I'm talking to somebody else and I say, I'm trying to do this thing. It's really hard. I'm getting shot down, whatever. And they go, oh yeah, that happened to me. Let me tell you, right?
Yep.
And it's just trading the war stories, right? There's like this huge benefit to that. I never realized that is so valuable.
Yep.
And then I think in terms of content and stuff,
I mean, that it doesn't have to, don't force yourself into a specific bucket, but
Well, one thing that I think about sometimes is, there's a lot of the events, there's great content. A lot of times it's kind of geared towards, it's going to be hard to articulate this, but it's like geared towards me as head of talent at Snapdocs, right? Or head of people at Snapdocs. Like, in other words, I get great stuff. I learn about how to maybe be a better head of talent or head of people at Snapdocs, and so it benefits the business, right?
Sure.
First and foremost, which is great, right? That's super valuable. What could be really interesting is an event. Maybe it's like a half a day event where it's really focused on us as our own kind of career and development, right? Like, hey, so you're at this stage in your career. What's next? How do you think about that? So you've been doing this role and you've been doing really well, but have you been neglecting these other skills that could be important? And how do you get those other skills? And let's talk about those, right? So maybe almost more talking about like, how do I up level myself, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Which it's all synergistic, right? That of course up levels the business that you're working in at that time, right? Yeah. Just maybe some more specific stuff about that. And I think, full day events are always hard, right? The last couple of years I've gotten to one, right? Transform, more full or multiple day event, right?
Sure.
Just because, everybody's so busy, but happy hours, half day events, right? Breakfasts, lunches, that's a lot easier to kind of get to.
Yep. We've been talking about a couple of different things. Like People Tech only, like advisor invite only dinners or breakfasts, right? So 15 advisors coming together for 2 hours over a meal.
Yeah.
And maybe even Jeffersonian style dinner where it's the theme is distributed in remote teams, right? And tactics for building distributed and remote teams.
Yeah.
15 advisors, nobody else in the room, go.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Even, you know what? Even an event, how to be a better advisor. Right? Because I think a lot of us, get into it, right? And get into People Tech, and it's it's exciting, and I'm gonna get a chance to be advising these companies, but then it's like, oh, how do I do that? What's, like, what do they need to know? What do they want to hear, right? Like, how can I be most beneficial to them, right?
Cool.
How can I be valuable?
Yeah.
Even that, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for in the next couple of years, personally or professionally?
Let's see. I'm super excited. Snapdocs is super exciting. I'm a couple years in, right? And when I joined, I didn't know, right? Like, I was 10 years at my own company before that.
Yeah.
And so this was this huge move and this huge kind of break, and it was
you
like
were local. Your company was local.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah. Recruitment consulting firm. It was embedded recruitment is what we called it. It was kind of RPO for startups, right?
Yep.
And so making this move was massive, and I was excited, but I didn't know. Okay, well, what's I'm buying the ticket, I'm getting on the ride. Let's see, right?
Yeah.
And now now that I've been on the ride for a couple of years, I can kind of I have a much better picture of what the ride might be, right?
Cool.
And I think there's a couple years left in the ride, right?
Yeah,
and that's really
totally
exciting, right?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes you walk in and you go, you start and it's at least the way I think about it, it's like, all right, I'm here, let's make it a year, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And
then the year comes and you're like, okay, I feel good, right? I got another year or two, right? Let's see how we go,
Completely.
right? And now I can see, like, I got a couple more years. There's plenty more work to do, right? We're 110. Our goal is to be, and our vision, from the founder, the vision is we want to be the biggest, most valuable company in mortgage tech, right? It's audacious. We're kind of first movers, but it's such a wide open space, right? And I think it's really doable. Like we can, we can get that, we can grasp that. And we've got to work really hard, but that's really exciting to think about, right? To just create tremendous value and to really change the way this pillar of the economy is transacted, right, on the back end. Mortgages are
a broken system,
nasty broken thing, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, and people don't realize, people think about it from the home buyer perspective. You sign all these papers, you don't really know what they mean, blah blah blah. It's terrible.
Sure.
But you know what? At the end of that, you go back and forth. Maybe that's 2 weeks. At the end of that, you get your keys, your shiny new keys to your house. You forget that, right?
Sure.
The people who work in the industry, they're back at work the next day. Some of them standing in front of a fax machine to get these packages put together, right? And so that's who we think about as a company. Of course, we think about the consumer, but we're really, empathy is our North Star value at Snapdocs, something I'm super proud of, right?
Nice.
And something we really live. And you see that manifest itself in the way that we talk about the what we're doing and who it's benefiting, and it's really the focus is on the folks in this industry.
Yeah.
And really making things better for them, right? And just making the whole industry more collaborative, efficient, cohesive, right? And that's super exciting. And I think if we do that, if we're able to do that, we will create this value. We will create this big, valuable company.
Cool.
And that's super exciting.
That's awesome.
As a guy who previously had only ever run something that was like 20 people, right?
Sure, completely.
It's thrilling to think about this. It's super exciting.
Cool.
Personally, I've got a couple of young kids. I've got an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, and so
that's full time.
Yeah, it's full time, and it's amazing.
I have a 3 and 6-year-old nephew.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
3 is like my favorite age. It is. You have the terrible 2s and the teenage years, right?
Yeah.
But it's like all the good stuff. They're coming online. They're getting so much more personality. They're communicating.
Yeah.
I love that. I just love it.
Are you local to the city?
Yeah, we were in the city for about 20 years. We've been in San Mateo for a year.
Okay.
So big change in the last year for us too.
Yeah.
My oldest has some special needs. He's got a bunch of challenges, and so.
What kind of special needs?
He's got sensory processing disorder. He's got extreme ADHD. He's got disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. I jumble those all the time, but it's some combination of those words.
I spent 4 years in private practice all over the world with kids with autism specifically.
Okay.
So
so he's
this space.
Yeah, so he does not have the autism diagnosis, but he's got a lot of other challenges, which the behaviors kind of manifest themselves as some autistic kids do, right? So just super challenging. We found a specialized school down in San Mateo.
Cool.
It's been really great.
Nice.
And San Mateo's been great. San Mateo's
Awesome.
a cool little town.
Cool.
And I ride the Caltrain up. It's a pretty easy commute.
Yeah.
Miss things about the city, but
sure, totally.
It's great.
Cool.
So I'm excited. I'm kind of excited to see settle a little bit more into that suburban life a little bit, and
totally.
and just watch the kids grow, and hopefully we can continue to help my son get to where he needs to be.
Cool.
So that's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. It's I think it's interesting in dealing with something like that. I mean, it's so hard, and we've been we've had such challenging times, and I think it's easy to get so negative, right, and to get so down. And at the same time, I think it's been like this. It's been like this impetus for me, I think, in some ways to be a little bit more open, and going back to what we were talking about before with the kind of self-actualization, and I don't know, I haven't pieced it all together yet, right? But just being in the thick of this, right, and with him, and battling with him, and trying to help him, and by different turns, right, and it's kind of shown me so much about myself, right? I'm only at the very tip of the iceberg of really starting to unwrap and discover, right?
Yeah.
But that's been so interesting and such a powerful experience, right? And I think that's only going to continue and intensify probably over the next couple of years too. So
when I started working with special needs kids, it was from a physical perspective, because I was in movement and was injured, needed to figure out how to recover, ended up developing this tool set, met a lot of parents, and thought at first I was there to help the kids, and realized really quickly actually it was more about supporting the ecosystem around the kids.
Yeah.
And what I found is, working with the parents, I just met more empowered parents, more empowered humans who happened to be special needs parents than I had met in any other aspect of my professional life to that point, because it required so much showing up every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing I would say is, there's little structure or ecosystem around some of these challenges, right? Like, there's no one person to go to, right? There's no specialist in, this combination of things that my kid is.
Wait, is it diet? Is it behavior? Right. Is it language? Is it movement? Is it environment? Is it toxins? Is it massage? Is it, right? Like
all this stuff, and we, and we're going through this, and it's like, just when he's awake, it's like every minute of the day is it's tactical. You have to be you have to be working
100%.
and helping, and keeping him, keeping our daughter safe at times, right? And it's like so challenging. And so you don't have time to kind of to do the high level thinking, and then you get to the end of the night and you clean up and you're exhausted, and you have 15 minutes to talk to your spouse about it and some ideas. And so for the longest time we were kind of looking for like a quarterback, because our doctor had no idea, right?
Sure.
And so we'd go to this specialist, and they would kind of, like you were saying, they'd go, oh, well, okay, movement, right? So we'd go to these, we had a couple of great OTs, and we've got an amazing OT now, and she's probably the closest thing we've ever had to a quarterback, right? But they all tend to really be deeply knowledgeable in their area, but they're not really thinking, or they just don't have the tools to be able to think about, okay, well, how does this connect to this, to this, to this, and how does that all connect to your kid's brain, right? And so we found we had to kind of be that quarterback, right?
Yeah,
we had to
100%.
figure this stuff out. And I mean, really, when I say we, I mean mostly my wife, right? Like, she's done so much, right?
Yeah.
And so that's been amazing. And I think, I mean, as hard as it's been, it's taught us a lot about ourselves, and just about how to deal with people, and anger and emotion. It's been kind of amazing. I think one day I'll be able to look back and go, wow, that was actually kind of, in a sense, in a perverted sense, a gift. You know what I mean? Like, as hard as it was.
Yeah. I've heard special needs parents call it that.
Yeah.
Right. And certainly, for sure, in my experience of hundreds of special needs families that I've had the honor to work alongside, the ones who are able to embody that, at least in brief moments, the most, are the ones who see the biggest changes in their children, right? It's like from self-acceptance into transformation, right?
And you know, I've seen it like it's the going through this over the last. I mean, this has been 5 years really. We've been dealing with this.
I was going to ask, what age did these things start to develop?
We kind of preschool. You know, when we first got to preschool, a month in, they said, "Hey, have you thought about ADHD? Have you thought about this?" And we were like, "Oh, no, not super surprised that you're saying that." But we also, first time parents, we had no idea, right?
Yeah.
And so started looking into it, and both kids are adopted as well, and so looking into that, and we knew there were risks, right? There was, with just different aspects of the history and everything.
Sure.
So started looking into it, and then it's just been this kind of journey of discovery, right?
Yeah.
But over the last 5 years, it's also, it's made me such a better. In a sense, I think it's made me a better person. Right.
Yep.
And which has made me a better employee, a better boss,
right.
a better
people person,
colleague, absolutely a better people person. It's
better
just
conversationalist.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's like I value adult conversation. That's not that's not about my crazy life. Just so much more, right? And just like I don't know, learning to realize that people have stuff, right?
Right.
And it's there's all this stuff below the surface, and I don't know what everybody's got, and I have to give them room to deal with their stuff, right? And it's been interesting. It's been interesting.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
I was not expecting that route, and that makes so much sense from what I've experienced of you.
Yeah.
Right? There's a level of compassion that you show up with. But I'm like, oh, you're a special needs parent. Of course, right? You've done the work. You've been doing the work every day for 5 years.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and we'll be very happy one day if we can get through it and not have to do all this work all the time.
I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that's what I'm excited about.
Back to sort of people tech tactical for a minute. Other themes that you're particularly excited for, like, right? So intimate time with other advisors, how to be a better advisor, how to develop your career independent of your company.
Yeah.
Right? Other, and you're welcome to email me later with ideas, but I'd love to hear other thoughts.
I think I love the kind of the bigger picture conversations, right? Like the idea that you mentioned of a Jeffersonian style dinner, maybe, right? That's centered around like a bigger theme, like what I love to think about how technology is changing talent acquisition, right?
Cool.
In general, like this is a massive theme, and you can go in so many different directions, right?
Yeah.
But I love having these conversations. I think it's part of me is still the 20-year-old college kid who wants to talk about life and the universe after a couple too many beers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, I like that as well. Just that more almost philosophical, kind of really high level. Conversation about people, about talent,
cool,
etc.
Yeah. Any particular people in the ecosystem, either within people tech or otherwise, that you think that like, oh my God, you should talk to this person, or they're always jumping into the comments and I love what they have to say?
There's so many. There are so many who pop up and who just I'm blown away, right? Like by some of the thoughtfulness and the responses. One guy, Itamar Goldman.
I saw him yesterday.
Did you? Yeah. And I don't know him super well. I've had a few conversations with him through People Tech, but man, that guy impresses me. Every time that I see him speak or that I talk to him, right? That just or when he replies to a thread. Just the thoughtfulness and he's got so much research at his fingertips, right? He's amazing. David Hanrahan, another person that pops up all the time, right? Pratiksha, I always forget her last name. She's out of New York.
Yep.
I think maybe Pratiksha
Patel.
Yeah. She's super smart. Has a lot of good insight into stuff. Michael Case on the talent side.
Yep.
Got a lot of time for Michael. Those are some of the ones that jump to mind.
Cool.
I can't wait for Transform. I got to get to responsive next time.
I would love that. Yeah, absolutely. It's October 1, 2, and 3.
October 1, 2, and 3? Okay.
At Zappos in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a miss for me this year.
I understand.
What happened there?
Between work, special needs, and life, right?
Yeah.
Like, I completely understand. Are you excited to be on stage as well? Like, is that something you're reaching towards?
Yeah, I am, I think. It's something I've done a bit in the past, much smaller kind of stuff, panels at smaller events that, we used to kind of co-sponsor or whatever in my old company. I haven't done anything in a while. I'm excited to kind of get back and start to do some bigger stuff with that. Cool. Absolutely, yeah. In fact, I reached out to Robbie and Samara. How do you pronounce it? Samara, yeah. To see if there was any kind of talent specific things that I could get involved with.
What are the topics that you're hungry for?
I love talking about anything talent related.
Cool.
Really anything talent related. I love talking about just the recruitment process and how to do things and how to do certain things well. I love to talk about the candidate experience, for instance.
Yep.
I just love to talk about, being a recruiter and the ups and downs and, how to kind of coach people through that, right? Because recruitment's so funny. I think it's one of these jobs. It's obviously been very commoditized at times, right? And we're having our moment now, I suppose, in the sun. People in talent, obviously, which is great. But still, I think, even so, I think it is something that doesn't get a ton of respect.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just think, oh, well, it's recruiting.
Right.
I mean, it's not. You don't have to write code. You don't have to know how to, be a product manager. You don't have to have any specialized knowledge. You just talk to people and see if they're good for the job, right? That's what people think, right? And of course, that's not true, right? It's true and it's not true, right? There is a low barrier to entry. Anybody can try it, right? But are you going to be good at it, right? And are you going to take the time to be good at it, right? Because sure, you can just start talking to people, but are you having the right conversation in the right way? Are you giving a good experience? Are you running a good process? Are you, do you understand what to do when you get bogged down? Like all these things, So I love that. I still love that. I still love getting in the boat and getting in the weeds with people. I still love to sit in on, a phone screen or, and give people some coaching and yeah. So anything related to that, really.
Thank you for taking the time and sitting down, Greg.
Yeah,
I'm really
thanks for
glad
doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So awesome. Yeah.